What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. So the League of Legends Sandbox Mode has been finally announced, or at least teased a little bit, and you guys know that I've definitely been super excited for this one, ever since it was first suggested as an update to the community. It's something that I've been anticipating ever since, and it took Riot quite a while to get around to it, as they did of course have other priorities with the new client and the ranked queue and all sorts of stuff. But it seems like they finally managed to convert their own secret sandbox mode into a user-friendly tool that everyone's going to be able to use, whether that's to maybe improve the game, learn a new champion, or to make some videos. Today, we're going to be taking a look at all of the information Riot has released regarding the sandbox, and also try to get an idea of what you'll be able to do when you're inside the sandbox mode itself. And if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely hit that like button, and let's get started. So of course, the sandbox feature has been long awaited by League of Legends players as the ultimate practice tool, a feature that would help players work on their mechanics in the comfort of their own space and without having to jump into actual games to do so. The easiest way to think about the sandbox mode in general is going to be sort of like a training room almost, Imagine you wanted to maybe get better at basketball and you're kind of bad at shooting three-pointers or something. Before sandbox mode, you would have to just practice them inside of a real match or some awkward custom game kind of thing, meaning you'd get very suboptimal practice, and it was just inefficient for actually improving. Obviously, in reality, you could, just practice three-point shots outside of a real game, shooting some hoops on the basketball court, and essentially, that's what the sandbox mode is going to offer players for League of Legends. Whether you feel like you maybe have a weakness with your early game last hitting, or if you want to improve on your wall flashes or other mechanics, the sandbox mode is designed to give you the perfect space to do that. It's designed for everyone, whether you're in the lower elos or maybe in the higher tiers trying to make the jump from master to challenger. And it also has a ton of features ready and streamlined for you to use as an individual to improve your game in a single player stress-free environment. And Riot has placed priority on a few features to give players access through commands so that they can give you the tools you need to start practicing things as soon as it releases. And understanding how these commands work is really all you're going to need to set things up to let you work on whatever part of your play you believe you want to work on. Now here's a great example that Riot provided that you'll be able to do, which is of course level 1 last hit training. So if you wanted to practice your last hits before the sandbox mode, you'd have to start up a custom game, walk to lane, and wait for the minions to spawn, and then you'd maybe farm minions, and the problem is that you'd keep getting stronger. So as soon as you hit the level 2, the last hitting changes a little bit because you get some more AD per level, and you kind of start last hitting a little bit differently. Meanwhile, the sandbox mode is going to give you the ability to set and lock your level. So you could, for example, keep things at level 1 to practice your early game last hitting, so that you would essentially improve your own laning phase by becoming a way better farmer early on in the game. It's actually even better than that though, because you can use other sandbox features to speed up the process, like teleporting to lane, saving the time you'd spend walking to the tower, and then fast forwarding the game by 1.5 minutes so that you don't have to wait for the minions to spawn either. And that's just going to give you a ton of extra time to work on your skills that you just wouldn't get in a normal custom game environment. Another really good example Riot provided for using the training room was all about early game jungle clears. You could previously practice early clears in bot games or even custom lobbies, but you would essentially just get one shot at your first clear and then you'd have to restart and wait all over again before you could try a different route. The sandbox mode is once again going to prove its value here because you have total control over the game really and its environment. So for example, you maybe start at the practice room, teleport to whichever camp you want to start at, and then fast forward the game by 60 seconds, making the camp spawn. Then you can test out whatever jungle route you maybe want to try out, hit the reset button, and try it all over again without having to exit or reload the game. And it's actually even better than that because you can even use the respawn jungle button to force the jungle camps to respawn immediately, so you of course can essentially get multiple clears in just a fraction of the time by teleporting back to base, healing up, buying your normal items, and then teleporting back to the next camp. Essentially, it just puts your ability to test out changes and improve the game on a really streamlined environment, just as if you were shooting some three-pointers in your basketball court, ready to put your skills to the test in a real game. Now the practice tool is supposedly going to start out being a little bit bare bones, or at least what Riot is describing as bare bones, but it's still going to have a ton of useful functions, and Riot definitely plans on updating it alongside the real game and adding a bunch of features whatever happens to be in the highest demand by the League of Legends community at the time. So the release version of the practice tool has been confirmed to have 18 different commands that the player can trigger by hitting a button on the interface. And these are split up into 3 different types and will let you set up the sandbox for whatever purpose you can dream of. The player commands are all features that affect you directly, stuff like automatically refreshing cooldowns, health or mana, adding gold, leveling up, teleporting around the map, for example. There's also some game state commands, for example, the ability to fast forward the game, spawn training dummies, disable minions, or reset the game without needing to wait for a loading screen. The last commands are for the jungle, so a force respawn for the jungle camps like we mentioned earlier, and also a dragon spawn that's going to let you pick whichever dragon you want to spawn in the game. And you'll be able to mix and match all these commands to let you set things up however you want to create the ideal training environment. So let's take a look at maybe some example things that you could practice using this tool. Say you maybe wanted to learn how to play Ezreal or just some AD carry, but you maybe kind of suck at escaping enemies with him. You can hop into a game, freeze the minions, disable the turrets, and then set your mana and cooldowns to automatically refresh, and then you can just walk around the map using your arcane shift all over the place over all the walls to practice. Same thing's going to apply with flash as well, of course. The instant cooldown resets means you can flash as many times as you want. No more waiting around for some super long ass cooldowns only to fail a wall flash. And trust me, this is something I'm going to love because I know I've done some pretty ridiculous custom game stuff where I had to wait for really long amounts of time to film some videos in the past. So I definitely am super excited about this. Another potentially really awesome use for the sandbox tool as a whole could be to learn how to play, those super mechanically challenging champions that you see maybe a lot of pros using. Champions like Riven, Lee Sin, Nidalee, the issue with those guys is that a newer player who hasn't necessarily used them before, it can be pretty difficult to succeed with. And I've definitely heard stories of, for example, Boxbox practicing his Riven combos for literally hours in custom games, or practicing his Nidalee wall jumps for literally hours. And these are the kind of things that are really going to let you tune and just perfect your mechanics to the maximum potential. So as we mentioned earlier, currently the sandbox mode is going to be, well, a little bit limited, although you can spawn training dummies, which is pretty cool. At the moment, you can only currently add 1 bot to the enemy team, but Riot Latency did mention that they will consider allowing up to 5 bots on the enemy team in the future, which could potentially be really cool for practicing stuff like maybe positioning as an AD carry, or just some general team fighting, or I don't know, maybe some certain types of laning or something like that. We'll probably also eventually see the ability to program some training dummy movements, so you could maybe practice things like hooks or maybe some skill shots, or something like that, where maybe the training dummy moves in a random way to where you can actually practice landing skill shots on them, I guess, could be really awesome. And it could also be really cool to see the ability to set up a friendly bot and maybe make them use a specific ability that you would then try and combo, perhaps using one of your own abilities. Also, I would love to see the ability to customize things like runes and masteries while inside the practice tool without having to reload the game. That's something that could be super handy, and another thing that would really just help save time would be a really awesome way to help test out different builds, different masteries, to maybe figure out the best way or the best options for what to pick on a certain champion. It would also be really interesting to see if Riot will make it so that you can play any champion in the practice tool. For example, maybe if there was a specific champion that you maybe wanted to buy, but you weren't sure if you enjoyed playing them enough to spend the IP or RP on them, maybe the practice tool could be a really cool way to give players a chance to maybe try out a new champion, safe with the knowledge that they'll actually be happy with that purchase. Either way, I am super duper excited for this to come out very soon. It's going to be released like really soon, honestly. We don't have the exact estimate of the release date just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hits the PB, very within January, honestly. And I'm definitely really excited to put this one to the test. It's going to be really awesome to see, a feature arriving from Riot that the community's been asking about for such a long time. Either way, though, definitely let us know your comments on the new sandbox mode down below, and maybe share some cool ideas of things you are planning on testing out once it releases. Either way, looks like that's going to be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.